Hello, friends. Welcome to another segment of My Generation, a podcast sponsored by and in collaboration with the South Shore Senior News, a monthly newspaper that connects seniors and the sandwich generation on a monthly basis. My name is Doreen Lang, and I'm your host. This segment is recorded and can be found along with other segments on SouthShoreSeniorNews.com. Today, it is my pleasure to speak with Tony LaGreca. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you. Glad to be here today.
This is going to be a great show. I'm not sure a lot of people know you. They may, but they need to. So I'm thrilled to introduce you. Are the CEO of WMEX, and this is a radio station. And tell us about it, when you started and what's been going on.
Well, I'll tell you, I started listening to WMEX when I was in the fourth grade, and that was back in 1953 or 54. And I loved the music right out of the get-go because they were one of the first rock and roll stations in the Boston market. And I had a hobby of collecting radio, so I was able to listen to it on a transistor. I was listening to it on my Philco. I had several different radios to listen to it. And Arnie Ginsberg was the big name back in those days. And I followed Arnie throughout my high school and everything. So about 2.5 years ago, I was told by one of the DJs, Larry Justice, who was on during the day. And Larry had actually was on the station in the 1960s when I was in high school. I used to listen to Larry Justice, and he came back and went to work for WMEX when it was revived. And I always loved the music. So it came up for sale in June of 2021, and I threw my hat into the ring and I ended up buying it.
Wow. How did you do that? I mean, had you any experience owning a radio station?
None whatsoever. I've had experience listening to radio stations, and I knew what the format was. I knew who the audience was. I knew they catered to 55 to 80-year-olds, pretty much baby boomers, and I felt that baby boomers have the money. So if we sell enough ads, we'll have no problem making it work. And that's how I started it. Fantastic.
And how do you enjoy it?
Enjoy it a lot.
Sounds like
the one thing that I found is that I was on WATD prior to doing a sports show, and one of the things was my son passed away back in 2014. And he passed away from an opioid overdose. Actually, it was methadone. And what I wanted to do, I became an activist in the opioid epidemic. And I wanted people to know and understand more about it because everybody finds out about it when it's too late. So I tried to get on different radio shows to get the word out. I was fortunate enough to meet the right people, and I ended up on CBS Evening News, and I ended up on NBC Evening News on a national level, representing parents who have lost a child from substance use disorder. So that made me I was interested in the concept of radio when this came up for sale. And I thought I'd be able to get myself a voice, and I wouldn't have to go begging for airtime if I owned the station. So I really was not interested in making money. I just wanted to break even with the station, and I wanted to have the right to put on my programs when I decided something needed to be said.
Wow, that's really an incredible story, and I'm so sorry for your loss. This radio station gives you a voice, and you're in control of the message you want to send, right, to a great extent, and the information that people need to learn about and people need to know. So it's really an incredible platform for education for people.
Yeah, it's called The Courage to Hope. And just to give you an idea, the last few guests that I've had, I just had Sheriff Patrick McDermott from Norfolk County. And Patrick McDermott has several programs in the works at the House of Correction in Norfolk County about, with the prisoners, because he told me 80% of his prisoners that come into the prison are addicted to either alcohol or drugs, 80%. And he's got several programs in the works so that not only when they get them sober and they get them in recovery, that also when they get that day that they get out of prison, they have a place to go, a place and meaning to be on the outside. You know, prior to that, I had Joanne Peterson on, and she is the one who founded Learn to Cope. And Learn to Cope is a place where you have a child who is suffering from substance use disorder. You could go to Learn to Cope. It's where all the parents get together and exchange ideas so that people don't feel that they're own. I mean, when you have a relative who's into substance use, the whole family is affected.
Right.
So we need to take care of the whole family. So this is the other kind of thing that I put on.
Right. Did you see during COVID to be even more of a crisis on this topic?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was for a variety of reasons. We had an increase in deaths. And the reason why we had an increase in deaths is the regular supply chain didn't come through anymore. So people were taking artificial pills. The artificial pills took over in this country, and they're all laced with fentanyl. And when the fentanyl is in the pills, if the person who's taking them is not used to fentanyl, just one pill will kill.
Wow.
And so that increased the probably out of the 106,000 people that died in 2021, probably 70% of those were fentanyl poisoning.
Wow. Now, this show that you have called Courage to Hope, you have that twice a week. When is that on?
It's on Mondays at 6:00 and Thursdays at 6:00. And it's actually the same program. I air it twice because one of the things about WMEX is that when I air that show, a lot of people will listen to the show and they'll say, oh, I wish my brother-in-law had listened to this, or I wish my sister would listen to this, because they may have a person in the family who's got a problem. And so I repeat it. And then I not only repeat it, and on our website, we make it into a podcast. So every show that I've ever done, which now I think I'm up to like 48. So in the past year and a half, 48 new ones, they're all on my website, WMEXBoston.com. And you can see it, or hear it, I should say, as a podcast. And that's good. And I will tell you, like, WMEX is an AM radio station. So we're on 1510 AM. We're also on 101.1 FM, but pretty much limited to Cohasset, Hingham, Weymouth, and Hull on the FM side. That's going to change soon. We're going to switch to a different tower and to a different location so we can cover more area. But at nighttime, our signal has to drop to protect stations that are far away. So because our signal would skip into other states after dark, because that's the way the AM signals work. They bounce off the ionosphere. So we have to cut the power. So our audience for streaming is probably after sunset, 90% of our listeners are streaming us.
Wow, interesting. Of course.
Yeah.
So this is obviously a very sobering topic, not to play on words, and it's also very informative for people. Can you tell us about some of the positives that have come of it? Come of the talks, the show, maybe progress that's been made, any kind of bright light on all of this?
Definitely. I mean, a lot, like just recently, we had somebody who was in real bad shape, and they were listening to the show, and the ex-wife actually called me and asked me what she should do, and she was able to get him into a treatment center called Gosnell, but then they were going to let him out after a week because his insurance only covered a week's worth. And because, again, her calling me, I was able to hook them up with a place called Evoke, which is in Cohasset. And it's another longer term recovery center. And even though they didn't have a bed, they were able to find him a bed in another recovery place in Weymouth. And again, that all resulted from somebody hearing the show and making the move to go to the next step in recovery. And I think, again, another one is that we had Family Recovery Resources on, and the woman who came on the show with me, she had about 8 parents call her and start taking the course on how the family should deal with the addict. So, because when the addict's in the family, the the family's in chaos. There's no way. The husband and wife are always arguing about how to deal with it. There's always problems with all the bridges that the addict has burnt. And, and this is I kind of like give it a platform and different possibilities of where people can go and either get treatment or get, into therapy of some sort and they get ideas. I mean, and we had the woman who was in charge of AA for Eastern Massachusetts on, and again, and several people that heard that, a couple of them I know started going to AA meetings and realizing that they don't have to take this deal alone. They can do it. And with group therapy, things get done better.
How excellent to shine a light on it that you do, Tony. You're an excellent resource, as well as I'm sure people call and seek out your advice and even counseling.
Yes, and there is it's not an upside, it's a downside. But if the child dies, I'm involved with a grief group, and like last night we had on Zoom 12 men, strictly men only, a grief group, and I started doing that from out of the radio station, and then I became actually one of the facilitators. And from that, we picked up some people that have listened to the show have now come on. And like we had a gentleman last night whose son just passed away 6 months ago, and another one who passed away 8 months ago. And they kind of, they were allowed to express some emotions and get it out, because everybody in the group is someone who has had a loved one die from substance use disorder. And strictly no alcohol, but this group is strictly like fentanyl and heroin and OxyContin and oxycodone. That's so again, where men can go, because men don't like to. They think they got to be the tough guy. I call it John Wayne syndrome. They think they got to be the tough guy. They're supposed to be the one who fixes it all and protects everybody. But they need to express their emotions too.
Right. So you have all this work you're doing behind the scenes and in
Yes.
front of the scenes, right? In front of the scenes. So there's so much
yeah.
with this. And yet you're maintaining this radio station with like phenomenal music from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So
That's the primary thing. Yes.
Yeah. But that's got to be kind of a wonderful balance, right? Because music is healing, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we don't, on WMEX, we don't have any political talk whatsoever. There are two words you can never say, and that's Biden and Trump. The DJs know they cannot talk politics in any way or fashion. We do not do the news. We do the weather and we do the sports, and that's it. And we will give you driving information. I know it's negative news if there's a car accident on the Southeast Expressway, but people like to know that sort of thing. So we do the traffic report. But music is always something that you'll remember from a happier time. Songs that you'll remember from the 60s and 70s that you can sing to.
That's right.
Yeah. Sings like,
Whether you
the
sound
Everly
good or not.
Brothers.
Just put
Everly
the windows
Brothers.
up in the car. Yeah.
That's right. Everly Brothers, Righteous Brothers, or in my case, if I'm singing, my kids turn the radio up louder. Yeah.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah. I flunked the karaoke test. So
I know. I used to think I had such a good voice until I grew up and really listened to myself. Not good.
oh, I know. It's like, you can't believe it sometime.
Although I sound really good in the shower, I think. But even that, I don't know.
I do want to. I want to mention that I also
Yeah.
have another show that's a much more upbeat. It's called the Uncle Tony Influential Italian Music Hour, and to qualify to be played on the station on that show, you have to be either born Italian, you have to have the song written by an Italian, or it could come from a movie that, like an Al Pacino may have been in the scene in the movie, and it was an Italian involved in the scene, like Scent of a Woman, Dance Till the End of Love is, a Cohen song, but Al Pacino dances to it in Scent of a Woman. So we play that song,
Nice.
we keep it going, but we do a lot of songs sung by Italians like Andrea Bocelli, Pavarotti, go way back, and we would do Julius La Rosa, and we would Vic Damone,
Tony, when is that show on?
Well, that's on every Friday at 2:00.
Okay, 2 p.m.
So
in
you
the
can,
afternoon.
so if you can hear it on 1510 AM, or you can stream it on WMEXBoston.com. Or if you have Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play WMEX. And that's as simple as that.
And she's
you
very
know.
obedient. Yeah.
She is, and she'll play it in stereo. All the songs from the 60s and 70s that really when they were played originally, they weren't in stereo, but they all are now. So they
Right.
all come out in stereo. It sounds terrific.
And
When
do you take requests, Tony? Can you?
Oh, absolutely. I take requests all the time. So the show's supposed to go from 2 to 3. And a lot of times it goes from 2 to 3:30 because we get, and it's interesting who they request the most. And in my case, it's definitely Dean Martin. Dean Martin is the baby boomer's best,
Yeah.
always Dean Martin's requested, and occasionally Frank Sinatra, but Dean Martin, Evening in Roma. And
Oh, yeah.
that's Amore, the two top. And then I do a lot of Chris Monti, with Dominic the Donkey and Peppino the Mouse and those songs, because Mezzaluna Mare, which, Lazy
Oh, yeah.
Mary. Remember
Oh,
Lazy
yeah,
Mary, get
yeah.
out of bed, he's going to sing the song in British for those who don't understand the Italian
right.
language.
That's right. And I actually own the movie Moonstruck because I love the music in the background for that. So
That's right. That's a good one. Yeah.
yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting us, taking us through some really important work you're doing, and then giving us some fun thoughts. I think we're going to have to listen to some music this afternoon. So thank you so much, Tony, for joining me today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
What a pleasure to meet you and learn more about you and your business. I wish you continued success in all of your endeavors. To our listeners, the segment was recorded and can be found along with other segments on socialseniornews.com. And please reach out to us if you have any suggestions for a podcast topic. We're always looking to share great information. I'm Doreen Lang. It's been my pleasure to share this with you. See you next time.